in many ways, it does not go far enough. I think the strength of the report is that it tries to be very conservative. It's very conservative in its method, in its conclusions, in its scope. However, the report did not consider sufficient evidence on some topics. So, for example, the mass internment campaign is well covered. But the issue of birth prevention and sterilization, for example, is quite underdeveloped, and also forced labor. A lot of evidence was not taken into account or not discussed. And of course, we have heard some disturbing allegations made by a diplomat that some of this evidence on sterilization was actually removed from the report at the last minute prior to publication.
And Doctor, unlike some US lawmakers and activists, the UN has not used the word genocide to describe what is happening in Xinjiang. Why do you think they haven't?
Probably because they try to be cautious and conservative. Proving genocide is more complicated because you have to prove intent. But it does also appear that Bachelet was consciously avoiding the topic of genocide and the full evidence on sterilization and birth prevention for political reasons.
And the outgoing High Commissioner said that she was under tremendous pressure. The publication was, of course, delayed. Do you think Beijing could have exerted any kind of influence on the outcome on the content of this report?
Beijing certainly tried to influence the report, and it tried to stop its publication. I think there is concern that not only the pressure from Beijing shaped what got into the report, but also Bachelet herself, I think, seemed to have certain preferences and views. In my opinion, it's quite evident that some aspects in the report are better covered, such as the detention camps, whereas other sections are not very comprehensive. And if I look at the work that the research team did and all the sources they considered, I think that some of these sections are insufficiently developed from that perspective. So it'd be interesting to find out over time what really went on behind the scenes.
You, of course, published yourself a report on the forced sterilizations, on the forced birth control methods used on Muslim minorities in Xinjiang and beyond. Why do you think something's lacking in this UN report? What exactly do you think is missing?
The report is very cautious, which is good, but for example, it cites evidence of sterilization per capita statistics from Chinese own national yearbook data. But then there's significant policy evidence that the region in Xinjiang issued policy directives on sterilizing Uyghur women in Uyghur majority regions and on limiting births, even have birth rate targets. This evidence was, to a substantial extent, not included in the report. And I think that is a significant shortcoming. I think the report's very useful. I think it's an authoritative tool, but these are shortcomings. And as I said, a Politico quoted an anonymous diplomat raising some concerns that some material was either withheld or taken out.
You said it could be an authoritative tool. So what's next then? What weight does this report actually carry? And do you think this could lead to more sanctions, for example?
I think regardless of any shortcomings we might find, this report is going to be very useful because it's going to be considered an independent, highly authoritative assessment. It's fairly conservative in its style. It has a very clear methodology. And so I think it's a very strong tool for those seeking neutral, independent evidence on the issue, for politicians, for governments, for the UN itself, the Human Rights Council, which has been accused of doing so little so far. But it will depend on these people to take it on and to use it.